Good evening, everyone. This is Enrique Sanchez of Spanish United Radio, and tonight we have a very special guest. Would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Hi, good evening. This is Maria Ramirez.
Welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I was at the LA district event last Thursday, and I was able to get a chance to listen to you. I didn't get a chance to speak with you in person, but I was able to listen to what you were saying, and it caught my attention, a lot of things that you were saying. So let's start off about what got you into running for district attorney, a little bit about your background, and what would you do differently if you become elected district attorney of Los Angeles?
Yes, thank you. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles County. My parents immigrated to Los Angeles from Mexico, and I grew up in the Boyle Heights area of Los Angeles. And my father and grandfather worked really hard to build up a family business that still exists today. And even though I had a really great upbringing by my parents and grandparents, the area where we grew up in was experiencing a very high volume of gang crime. And I saw how much it affected our community, especially a community made up of a lot of immigrant families. And I felt that they needed a voice in the district attorney's office. And so that is why I decided to join the district attorney's office more than 33 years ago now. Because I felt that I wanted to represent our community in the DA's office. And when I joined the DA's office, there weren't a lot of people of color, especially in top management of our office. And I really felt that it was important for our office to reflect the community that we served. And so, it's been a career that I think has been very meaningful to me. And just as I saw an injustice that was happening that made me want to become a deputy district attorney, I also now see, almost 30 years later, another injustice that is happening in our office now, where I don't think that our office is doing the best job that we can in making sure that our communities are safe from crime. So that is why I decided to run. Uh, and I believe that I have the experience and the heart and passion to run the office the way it should be run, and to really restore the public's trust in our ability to keep them safe.
Yeah, because in the last couple of years, a lot of people have been complaining that they haven't been feeling safe, and crime has actually gone up in many aspects,
Mhm.
and it definitely affects Hispanic people in particular, and that's something that I have seen. It's unfortunately just become a trend, and
Mhm.
it's really something that they that there needs to be more Hispanic representatives in the district attorney's office, because there's not that many, and especially where you have a large Hispanic population, it's important in the interest of public safety that there is someone that at least represents the community, or at least the people feel that they have a connection. Because when you have the disconnect, it's like people don't feel that they have confidence in their public
Mhm.
servants, and then it doesn't benefit anyone. So I really commend you for what you're doing. And another question I was going to ask,
Mhm.
if you win the district attorney's office, what would you do differently, or what would be one of the first things that you would do once you get into office?
Sure. So I think the top priority of the district attorney's office has to be public safety. And I think in the last 3 years have gotten a little bit away from making that a priority. And I think our communities have to understand that the primary responsibility of prosecuting crime and keeping our community safe is with the district attorney. And so, one of the very first things that I would do is ensure that our policies and directives prioritize public safety and also prioritize victims of crime. Also, in the last 3 years, I think the victims of crime have lost their voice in our office, frankly. And I really think that it is important that our community feels a sense of safety, knowing that the district attorney will prosecute crime. And that will be my very first and top priority. I really want our communities to be engaged. And like you said, about having trust in the system, I think especially for our immigrant communities, it's very important that they have trust in the system, that we are there to help them, we are there to protect them. And so I am ready. I think I understand our communities, especially our most vulnerable communities, and I really want to represent their interests in the district attorney's office.
Awesome. I think that's the way it should be. Like the whole purpose
Mhm.
of being a public servant is serving the interest of the public, not to be
Yes,
for their own self-interest. So that's something
exactly.
that I commend you for. And another question we wanted to ask, as far as the cash bail and as far as the gang enhancements, like what would you do differently? Would you keep them or would you enhance them even more? Like what would you do?
So, just with gang and I'll talk about the enhancements first.
Sure.
I think that we as prosecutors have to have the ability to use the laws that our legislature has given us to keep our public safe. And that includes the enhancements that we use. But I think that we still have a responsibility to use those enhancements responsibly and in a fair and equal manner. And so I would use enhancements. I think that enhancements are important. And, to understand it better, I think when we are trying to account for conduct that, for example, somebody who uses a gun, you want to treat that person more seriously than you would somebody who does not arm himself or
Right.
herself. And just with the gang enhancements as well, I know that the argument on the other side is that it disproportionately affects people of color, the
Mhm.
gang enhancement, but I believe that if we use it responsibly, we should only be using it in those situations where the gangs are emboldened to commit very serious and violent crimes. And I think that that is a tool that we should use. With regard to the bail system, the courts have implemented this new zero bail system, which the intent is good. In other words, we do not want somebody sitting in jail just because they can't afford bail. We really have to analyze their risk of harm if they are released. But I think that the system that is in place right now has failed to account for the repeat offenders that we're seeing committing a lot of these smash and grab crimes,
Mhm.
because most of the individuals committing those crimes are people who have committing theft offenses before. And they
Right.
just, the public is frustrated because they just see these individuals committing crime after crime after crime, and they're getting out of jail. So we have to be able to uh, put bail on those repeat offenders so that we could keep them in custody longer and away from the community that they're hurting.
Oh, I agree with you because it's gotten to a point that the criminals are not afraid
Yes,
to steal. It's like, the law says
exactly.
as long as you steal less than $950, you're not going to be
Mhm,
punished. So it's like it's just
mhm.
giving a green light that you could do whatever you want, and that is counterproductive to a civil society. It's very important that,
Yeah,
we need to have fairness, but at the same time we need to have the rule of law, which we
yeah.
have.
Yeah, and I think laws are important and we have to be able to apply them. And that is, I think, the number one role of the district attorney, and something that I feel has gotten lost. And our communities are the people that are suffering for it.
Right. And I also believe that aside from punishment, I also believe there needs to be more investment when it comes to creating prevention programs or
Mhm,
prevention places. Like for example, people that are not violent, this is my personal opinion, like people that are not
mhm,
violent offenders, let's say that are on drugs or mentally ill, that commit a crime that is not violent, like, let's say whatever.
mhm,
I think those should be given at least an opportunity to not go to prison, but at least go to a rehab place, or at least where they could have an opportunity to enter society, because the prisons and the jails today have become the new mental institutions of
mhm,
today. And when people are incarcerated, unfortunately, they don't get the treatment that they get and they become worse. So, like,
mhm.
what would you do and as far as the homeless crisis and the mental illness when in relation to crime when they commit crimes?
Yeah, so I think it's really important. I mentioned the priority of public safety and following the laws, but I think now because of the crisis that we are seeing with mental health, homelessness, and drug addiction, we really have to be more expansive in our view of criminal justice, right? And so I wholeheartedly agree with you that we have to find alternatives that actually are very thoughtful and work. And I think where we're failing right now is that within the district attorney's office, we don't have the knowledge or the training to know what options are available to us when we have a person that we need to house somewhere, or if a person is getting out of custody and is homeless. Well, I think we have a responsibility to be involved in what is going to happen to that person and make sure
Absolutely.
that they are getting services once they have either, they're put on probation or they're getting out of jail. And the way that we do that is, first of all, we have to educate our prosecutors, and we have to develop a pipeline between our office and our other government agencies that deal with mental health, that deal with homelessness. We have to develop a pipeline both ways. In other words, they give us the information, they tell us what options are available so that we have an understanding of what we can do for those people that you just described, right?
Mhm.
And the other important thing that the district attorney has to do is advocate for more funding for these individuals, because I currently supervise our arson and explosives unit, and many of the people that are committing arsons right now in LA County suffer from serious mental health issues, but they are also very dangerous right
Mhm.
now. And so there's nowhere to put those individuals because there's no secure housing that deals with mental health right now. There aren't sufficient beds for that. And so our only alternative is to send them to state prison. And
Mhm.
that is not going to solve the problem because eventually they will get out. Their mental health issue was not addressed. And so we have to be proactive in making sure that the government knows that we need funding for those things.
Absolutely. And what people don't realize, the taxpayers don't realize, is that both the criminal and the government has to work together, because a lot of
Yes.
people focus more on punishment, and it's like once the person serves their time, I believe that it is the public safety's responsibility to make sure that once they get out, they can rehabilitate themselves. So that way they're guided into becoming productive citizens, not to return to their way of crime. Because it's like what you said, once someone serves their time for whatever crime they committed, they're let out, and then they don't have any
Mhm.
options. Like they already have a record. They're not
Mhm.
able to find work. And what do? They go back and they do the same thing what they were doing, and then it becomes a revolving door. And I feel that's done
Yeah.
intentionally to harm society. And I feel that
Yeah.
it serves no purpose, and it harms the community, it harms the taxpayers, and it just doesn't do anything productive for people.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with you. And that is one of the issues with the current district attorney, because he came in with an agenda of decarceration, right? Which obviously we want to save incarceration for the worst offenders.
Right.
But when we're talking about decarceration and you're doing it without a plan, then you're just letting out all these individuals without any plan moving forward. Do they have a job? Do they have housing? Do they need services? Are they getting those? To be able to say, I've let out so many people, that doesn't really solve the problem. And so
No.
we have to be a little bit more engaged with our community and also with the social issues that are affecting the community and are crossing over into our criminal system.
Oh, absolutely. I feel that there needs to be a plan in general for every individual that commits a crime. Let it be a felony, let it be a misdemeanor, because that's the only way one can reduce and prevent crime. Let me give you two examples. In the
Mhm.
Nordic countries of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, they're more lenient than we are. However, they do have crime prevention programs that once a convict gets out of prison, they do what they can to make sure that that person stays out of prison. And
Mm.
and they use methods of incarceration which would be considered too humane, like what a lot of
Mhm.
conservatives would like to say. And then you have the other
Mhm.
extreme, like in the People's Republic of China, that has like 20 times the population that we do, but yet they don't have the
Mhm.
crime that we do. And that's because they have very strict draconian
Mhm.
laws. So there's like two extremes
Yes.
right there. So we need to find a balance on what works and what
Mhm.
doesn't, because not every single plan is a one size fits all option.
Exactly. And you said the right word, which is a balance. And having blanket policies that don't take into consideration the individual person, their criminal history, their social issues, anything that falls short of that, we are not doing the public any service with that. So yes, I agree.
Because I feel that when people put a blank policy on every case, you know, unfortunately people will fall to the cracks, and that just
Mm,
creates further problems for everybody else.
yes.
And also,
Yeah.
I also believe that there needs to be more accountability in the district attorney's office, because it's like this is my observation from the outside. There's a
Okay.
lot of cases that are going into district attorney's office that shouldn't be going there to begin with, especially where there is no merit. Like there should be like some type of review board, like before a case goes to trial, that if there is no physical evidence for merit to go to trial, I don't think it should go to trial, because first of all, it wastes the taxpayers' money, it wastes the court's time, it just slows down the due process, and it just doesn't get justice done. It just makes everything mediocre.
Mhm. And I'm taking notes about this because I like to hear what people's views are of the way our system works. And there are many checks and balances as a case goes through the criminal justice system because we do have a pretty good review process in place. However, because of the amount of cases that are coming through our office, that is an area where we really have to look at it and make sure that is this process working? Where can we do better? And especially with the increase in our caseloads and the decrease in our staffing is affecting our ability to really review thoroughly all of the cases that come before us. And so as district attorney, whoever the district attorney is, hopefully me, we're going to really need to assess our review process and make sure that we are giving the attention that each case needs to know which ones need to move forward and which ones do not.
Because we in Spanish United, you know, me being a civil rights advocate, one of the
Mhm,
things that we do is that we try to help people, especially Hispanic people that are the most affected in the justice system, know their rights, because in many cases, a lot of them don't know English, many of them don't
mhm,
know the system, and many of
mhm,
them feel that taking a plea deal will serve in their best interest, but in reality, it doesn't. Like there was a case a couple of years ago where this young man was being harassed and accosted by this woman that got obsessed with him. And before he was able to put a restraining order on her, she put a restraining order on him. And then he took him to court twice at the Chatsworth court, and then finally to the San Fernando Superior Court. And then he received a letter that said that he was being charged. That it was a very vague charge when I read it from. It had to do with
mhm,
posting personal ID information, but again, there was not a detail of what he did. And
mm,
since he didn't have a lawyer, and the prosecutor there was very wicked, in my opinion, he was forced to take a
mm,
plea deal that didn't serve him. So there needs to be like some type of an
mm,
oversight that before any type of case, doesn't matter if it's violent, non-violent, that there has to be merit, because a lot of people use the court system to abuse people, and that also needs to stop.
mhm. And really that goes down also to the quality of lawyers and staff that we hire in the district attorney's office, right? And obviously, the majority of the people that work in our office have integrity, and I think it's just a matter of the leadership communicating to the men and women in our office what our expectations are, what we want them in terms of reviewing cases, and then the other part of it too is having the open communication between a defense lawyer and the prosecutor at every stage, even at the beginning when important decisions are being made. So there's a lot of ways I think that we can improve that part of what we do because it is one of the important roles that we do. We make decisions that affect people's lives, and we have to make sure
Absolutely.
that it is being based on evidence and the law, So.
Absolutely. And in many cases, you know, a lot of people are being convicted without even having evidence, and are not even getting due process, just the fact
Mhm,
that they're poor, they cannot post bail. So
mhm,
there needs to be some type of criminal justice reform in general, because again, there's a lot of people that are in prison that should not be in prison. Then there are people that should be in prison that are not in prison because
right,
they're able to
right.
post bail.
Yes, I agree. So I think we're making strides towards making that more equitable, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
And another question we wanted to ask in Spanish United, once you are elected into office, like I'm not too familiar with how the district attorney's office works, but would
Mhm.
you like bring in new people? Would you like propose new bills, or like what exactly what you do, once if you're elected into office, like what would be the changes that you would do to district attorney's
Yeah,
office?
so sure. So I think the first thing that needs to happen is that the policies that we implement and issue have to be based on the law and based on fairness and a case by case analysis of each case and each person coming before us. So that's the number one thing that needs to happen. The other thing, I think that we have a lot of talent within the district attorney's office in terms of creating policy and leadership. I think that what the office needs now is leaders that are well respected, that people
Mhm.
will follow, will listen to, especially now when we're exploring other ways of doing what we do, right? With all the ideas for reform and all of that. So our leaders have to be knowledgeable and they have to be well respected so that people want to follow them, want to try new things, right? And so that's going to be important. The other thing, though, is when it comes to issues like about mental health, homelessness, and drug addiction, although we have expertise in those areas when it comes to prosecuting cases, we may not have the knowledge of what the person is going through and what the options are for services and things like that. So that's where I would like to bring in people from the outside that would be knowledgeable about those things and create a liaison position for that. I think that will go a long way for making sure that we're all informed about what options we have for individuals suffering from those things. And so I would be looking to, and of course, we are having such serious budget issues in our office that is affecting our staffing levels. So I have to make sure that we get back to a staffing level that we will be able to serve the public well. Right now, we have lost a lot of staffing. People are leaving our office. They don't like the morale there. And so we're going to have to really prioritize getting our staffing levels back to a point where the public is going to be able to trust us that we are being able to do the job that we
Right.
are designated to do.
Right, and I would also recommend inviting not necessarily advisors, but also people from the community, like civil leaders that could give their advice and opinions. Like I've been
Yes.
invited to speak with many politicians and many political elites in their circles to give them
Mm-hmm.
advice on how to reach out to the Hispanic community, because Hispanics are one of the most marginalized communities in the United States.
Yes.
Even though we represent a large minority, where we tend to be invisible in many aspects. And I would definitely recommend that if you were to become the district attorney's office, I would suggest inviting and speaking with civil leaders that they could give you their 2 cents on how X, Y, and Z would affect the community, and just get advice. Like I could
Yeah.
definitely offer you my 2 cents if you were to be elected.
Insights. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I really appreciate that because having the connection and the relationship with our communities, especially the most vulnerable, is something that is very near and dear to my heart because I belonged and I grew up in that community. I spoke earlier to Chinese media, and they also have the same concerns because they feel that their community is not being listened to. And that is, I know from my community, they don't feel that they're important as well. And so for me, just today, I've just been talking about the importance of being connected to the community, whether it's through people like you or the electeds that are closer to the community. That is, I think, something that we can do a lot better in the DA's office is to have direct relationships and communications with individuals that know their community. Because I don't, even though I may know my Boyle Heights community, for example, I may not know others in LA County. And so it's going to be important for me to learn and to listen. And that is one of the things I think that has been missing in our office in the last 3 years is that we need a leader who is going to listen. And that is very important to me in terms of my leadership style. And I really appreciate that you're putting yourself out there to, be a source of information for me.
Absolutely. You know, one thing that I've learned being a civil leader is that you're not about barking orders, but you are to lead by example and also to listen to
Yeah.
the concerns of the public. Like my
Yes.
foundation started with 10 people. We've grown to over 1,000 people with 6 chapters in different states. And even
Congratulations. That's
thank you,
awesome.
thank you, thank you. And even though we've only been around for a couple of years, and I always make myself available to my to my directors that are below me because I feel that their concerns are equally important. It's like with a company. Good leadership involves listening to everyone's concern, even to one's subordinates, because that way you will know what's affecting the company in order to make the
Hmm.
company function better. Because you could be wealthy, but if you don't have a team working with you, you're not going to do much or go very far. That's something that I've learned in the business world.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's definitely, I spoke about listening to community, but listening to our employees, both the attorneys and the support staff, and really, especially after this election, I think our office is in chaos and hurting. I think people are hurting, and so it's going to be critical to move forward to be able to have an open dialogue and listen to what their concerns are and how we can make things better.
Right, like for example, when I was at the district attorney's off, not off the district attorney's panel,
Hmm.
I thought that the panel discussion, even though it started out civil, it turned out to be a disaster because I saw
Hmm.
people that were making personal insults, and the audience is like,
Hmm.
I can understand people's frustration, Mr. Gascon, but there's a time
Yeah.
and place for everything, and anger holds no place in civil discourse. So I
Hmm.
definitely believe that there really needs to be more transparency and there needs to be more respect because once you lose that
Hmm.
respect, even if you speak with respect to others, it's just going to fall on deaf ear.
Yeah, I agree. I think the mutual respect is important. And I've tried to, it does get frustrating, but especially when we're out with the candidates and in these different forums, I try to kind of stay above the fray whenever it gets a little heated because I don't, that's not my style. And so I just feel that we have to have respect for each other, even if we have different points of view on certain things. And I think I've tried to live that throughout my career, and I would definitely bring that to the district attorney's position.
Right, absolutely, because it's like, especially that we live in a democratic civilized society, it's
Hmm.
like there are rules that are considered the norm in civil society. Unless you're living in a primitive society, it's different. Those rules don't apply. But
Hmm.
but when we live in a civilized society, there are social norms that people should do. It's like there's a lot of people I don't like personally, but that doesn't mean I'm going to
Hmm.
insult them or
Right,
make
right.
petty accusations because it makes me look bad and it makes other people
Hmm.
look bad. I don't believe in humiliating people. Even if I don't like someone,
Yeah.
I don't believe in doing that because it serves no purpose. Nothing gets done.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And one more thing, I
Hmm.
also wanted to ask you. What would be the best attribute that you would have that you would bring to the city attorney to the district attorney's office? Like, what's your best attribute that you feel that would make yourself better qualified for this position?
I think it is my leadership style in that my leadership style really relies heavily on the expertise and advice and opinion of those that I lead, right? So that even though I may be in a leadership position, I am still part of a team. And so I think that that's how I've always approached my career and everything I have been involved with. I've held other leadership positions, and I think in all of them, it's not about the power and it's not about me as a person, but it is about, as a group, what can we accomplish together? And I think too, the part of that is that I have a good way of really looking at a person and what they can contribute to the team. So, sometimes like you said, there's people you don't really like, but I always try to, what can they contribute? What are they good at? What are their strengths? And really make them feel that they are a part of a team. So, I am a strong leader in that way. I listen and I collaborate. And I think that style will serve me well as district attorney.
Well, I definitely wish you well on your endeavors. May the best person win.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate having this conversation with you, and hopefully we will be in touch in the future.
Definitely, we'll definitely keep in touch. And for
Okay,
people on your side, we are available on all social media platforms. We are on Spanish United, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, now known as
great.
X, Instagram, and anyone that wants to reach out to us, we're definitely make ourselves
Mhm.
available. And again,
Okay.
thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Now, everybody
Likewise.
go remember to vote on March 5th. Very important.
Definitely, definitely. Have yourself a
Yeah.
wonderful evening.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Bye bye.